Another night of protest. Demonstrators and police faced off for the third night following Daunte Wright's death. Consequences the officer who shot him could face as early as today. An emergency meeting on the future of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The concern, rare blood clots.
I think this is an unusual occurrence. It's less than 1 in a million.
What the pause means for vaccinations locally and the warning signs you should know. Arrests nearly 25 years later. 2 men charged in connection with Kristen Smart's disappearance and murder.
I'm confident that we have enough of a case to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
The proof investigators still need. Taking advantage of the dead. Scammers are trying to cash in on people who've recently died. The number one son, you are being targeted. Expecting a tax refund or even waiting for your last stimulus check? The one thing you should not do with your money. Those stories and more this Wednesday, April 14th, 2021.
Live from the local station, The Morning Show starts now.
Breaking overnight, Minnesota police arrest more than 60 people following a third night of protests over Daunte Wright's death. The 20-year-old was shot and killed by a police officer Sunday.
If you continue to obstruct, resist.
Police used pepper spray and fired flashbang grenades as officers tried to clear the Minneapolis suburb streets following a 10 p.m. curfew. Some of the people in the crowd threw bricks, alcohol bottles, other things at officers. There are no reports of any serious injuries. Demonstrations earlier in the day were largely peaceful. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for choosing us. The announcement expected later today is coming up in just a minute. But first, the CDC will hold an emergency meeting in just a few hours to discuss the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
The meeting comes after federal health officials recommended pausing the use of the vaccine because of 6 cases that developed of rare blood clots. Those clots were found in women between the ages of 18 and 48. 1 person died. Another is in critical condition. Their symptoms showed up within 13 days of the first shot, but there is no definitive link between the blood clots and the shot at this point. So let's put this into perspective. Those 6 cases are out of 6.85 million Johnson & Johnson doses already administered in the U.S. We are following this story from a number of different angles, from how the change will affect local vaccination sites to the possible warning signs you should know.
But first, Melanie joins us. Mel, the CDC plans to review those cases and decide how significantly they are before moving forward with shots.
Yeah, they made it very clear, Jen, yesterday that they were going to work this out as quickly as possible. They wanted it to be a pause and not a stop so that they could do this research. So they're hoping to have updated recommendations by the end of the day. But again, the pause will likely last a few days. That's according to the FDA commissioner. And after today's review, the FDA will hold its own investigation reviewing the CDC's analysis. The vaccine, was approved for emergency use authorization 6 weeks ago. The FDA gave it the green light after trial results found it was 85% effective and protected against COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths. One of the selling points of this single dose shot was that it was able to help with some of the variants. It was able to test it on some of the variants. The U.S. has been averaging more than 3 million shots a day this month. And the president says that he is not concerned about the effect on overall vaccine supply and is confident this pause will not affect his vaccine goal.
There's enough vaccine that is basically 100% unquestionable for every single solitary American. The message to the American people on the vaccine is, I told you all, I made sure we have 600 million doses.
Now, the president and health experts say the pause should boost confidence in the vaccine because it does prove that the government is watching and putting safety first. Bruce, Jen.
All right, Mel, thanks. Many vaccination sites had to pivot because of the pause, including the one at Gateway Mall.
News4Jax reporter Jennifer Reddy joins us live from there. And Jen, the pause does not mean the site is closed.
Good morning. That's exactly right. This site just opened in the last few minutes, and I just spoke with a spokesperson for this site who says nothing has changed for today. They are not offering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but they are still offering second doses of the Pfizer vaccine.
This morning, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is on pause at vaccination sites across the country. The CDC and FDA made the recommendation due to concerns over rare blood clots. Health officials say they made this suggestion out of an abundance of caution. In the U.S., 6.8 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine have been administered, and there are 6 reported cases of blood clots. To give perspective, the president of the Duval County Medical Society Foundation, Dr. Sunil Joshi, shared this information on Twitter, saying you're more likely to die in a car crash or be struck by lightning than develop a blood clot after the J&J shot. While offering this perspective, Dr. Joshi says he does agree with the FDA's decision to press pause on the vaccine and investigate further. We also spoke with several people in our area who support the call.
Appreciated the the abundance of caution, just to put things on pause, just to make sure there's no causation.
And as I mentioned, this site did just open in the last few minutes at 7 o'clock this morning. You can see we're not seeing too much activity here so far this morning. Again, this site is only offering second doses of the Pfizer vaccine right now. Jennifer Reddy, Channel 4, the local station.
Thanks, Jen. Keep in mind the Publix typically opens appointments, for the J&J vaccine on Wednesday mornings, but that's not happening today. Instead, you can book an appointment still today, but it's for the Moderna vaccine. Time slots are available in all of our local counties. We just checked. Just go to publix.com/COVID vaccine. And coming up on the morning show, we are getting answers to your questions about the J&J vaccine. What are the signs of blood clots? And is there any way to prevent one from forming? Stay with us for the interview at 7:15. And how is the economy reacting to the shift as well? Jane King breaks that down for us from the NASDAQ at 7:35. Now, happening today, prosecutors are expected to decide whether to charge the former police officer who shot Daunte Wright in a Minneapolis suburb.
Officials say it was an accident and the officer thought she was about to use her taser on Wright. Meantime, police clashed with protesters as officers tried to clear the streets after curfew. Dozens were arrested.
Some officers had their guns drawn as they tried to enforce the curfew. None fired. One photographer recording the protest was among the 60 people arrested overnight. He was released and given a citation shortly after that. Now, the officer who shot Wright, Kim Potter, and Brooklyn Center's police chief resigned yesterday. We've learned Potter is a 26-year veteran with the department, a union president, and a field training officer. She was actually training a new officer Sunday when she shot Wright. Now, this is all unfolding, as we know, just miles from where former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is on trial for killing George Floyd.
Closing arguments expected Monday, but today the defense will continue making its case. Nadia Romero is in Minneapolis.
The defense team for a former Minneapolis police officer had just begun presenting their case Tuesday. One of their first witnesses, a use of force expert, testifying that Derek Chauvin was justified in kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
I felt that Officer Chauvin's interactions with Mr. Floyd were following his training, following current practices in policing, and were objectively reasonable.
Another supporting the defense's theory that the crowd was distracting.
They were very aggressive towards the officers. I was concerned for the officers' safety.
So there are 3 main arguments in the defense's case: that George Floyd died because of a heart disease and because of drug use. They believe that Derek Chauvin was distracted because of hostile bystanders, and that sometimes use of force is ugly but necessary. Live from Minneapolis, I'm Nadia Romero.
Watch the trial as it unfolds, live streaming on news4jax.com. It begins at 10 this morning. But first, the vital move happening today that could make some protests illegal here in Florida. That's ahead at 7:35.
Happening overnight, the Coast Guard is searching for roughly a dozen people who were on board a commercial boat that capsized off the Louisiana coast. Severe weather hit the 129-foot boat just south of Grand Isle. Wind gusts reached up to 75 miles per hour at the time. Now, 6 people were rescued thanks to the help of another boat nearby. The boat is used for oil and gas exploration.
Happening today, President Biden will announce plans to pull all U.S. military forces out of Afghanistan by September 11th. It ends the country's 20-year presence. The previous administration had planned to pull troops by May 1st, but Biden said that deadline was too tight. He says the U.S. will instead use the additional time to reach a peace agreement between the Taliban and Afghani government. Right now, more than 3,000 U.S. troops remain in Afghanistan. NATO allies have about 7,000 in country. President Biden will deliver his first address to a joint session of Congress this month. It's scheduled for April 28th, one day before his 100th day in office. The speech will give him the chance to focus on progress made during his tenure. It could look different than past addresses because of the pandemic. A time for the speech has yet to be announced.
Developing this morning, the last person seen with Kristen Smart before she vanished from a college campus in 1996 is now in jail. Investigators arrested Paul Flores and his father, Ruben Flores, yesterday. Paul Flores has been a longtime suspect in the case, but investigators never had enough evidence to charge him until now. His father is charged with helping his son cover up the death. Police say it comes after a search at Ruben Flores' home last month turned up new evidence.
Forensic physical evidence was located, and yes, we believe it's linked to Kristen. And yes, we did find physical evidence at least 2 homes. I'm confident that we have enough of a case to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Officials say they also have evidence from a 2016 excavation in California. They are still searching for Smart's body, but they are confident in the case with more than 200 pieces of evidence, DNA testing, and witness statements.
Exact Track 4D detects dangerous weather days ahead of time, so you can make the right plans for your family.
11 minutes after 7 o'clock this morning, we're getting ready for some changes to our forecast.
But if I can take the song from Les Mis, when it comes to sunshine, we've got one day more, Rich.
We do have just one more day here with what will be ample sunshine. Then it's going to become a cloudy regime over the next several days. And in between, we could see some bouts of locally heavy weather. We've got 61 now at St. Augustine as we move down there just at sunrise. Our cool start will lead to our warmer afternoon, warmest day of the work week here, and one more day with some 80s. They won't be widespread. Made it down to the double nickel here at Jacksonville. The wiggle room actually set us up at 51 degrees, but we've been holding steady in the upper 50s. Seemed like a safe bet. And then Mother Nature bested me by a couple of degrees there. Our lower 60s continue. That's down from what, 65, Jacks Beach. Our temperatures continue with the upper 50s, lower 60s as we move inland. A little warmer at St. Simons there at 66 degrees. And it's the same story northeast Florida. We'll start here with the 50s, Hastings and McClenny, moving closer to the 60s as you get near I-75. And if that's where you start your morning, it will be a little warmer in between. We've got 50s and also a mix of the 50s and 60s as you get ready for, or you hop on the bus to beachside later today as you hop off the bus, widespread in our inland areas, 80s, even some low 90s. I think by drop-off time, 3 o'clock, we'll still be in the 80s. An hour later, though, we could start to see some of those 90s here inland. We are back to our hour by hour. This updates, like the name implies there, hour by hour. This one shows where the sea breeze merged, see where the pinch was, where those little blobs show up. So I think the 10% will easily cover what we have that potential for here for today. And then it's Thursday, and then we start to watch, and like I've been saying here, throughout the morning, we could be tracking some of the prefrontal stuff. It looks more likely that around the lunch hour, as you get to I-75 up to about Highway 301, northward through southeast Georgia, you got Baker, Columbia, and into Ware County, including that of Charlton. By 1 o'clock, we're moving into western Duval. You got Nassau, Camden, and Glenn County, southward Union, Bradford, Clay, and Alachua. And then by 2 to 3 o'clock, which would be great news for the kids hopping off the bus tomorrow, a lull before we'll see the last round come through. And this will take us into the evening here on Thursday. There are a couple of models, and this one shows a lighter band, but it tries to establish and keep some showers here to the south, and that will be the best chances. That front settles to the south, keeping our pattern mostly dry for Friday, which, we hope that by all means that continues. So if you look at the numbers here, we're into Friday, it's 3 o'clock. We've got the 1/4 of an inch that we picked up through Thursday, and it stays the same until we get to late in the day here or the afternoon on Saturday. And then here's really where we have the potential, and I let this play through all the way to Tuesday, of what could be several rounds south of I-10 and near I-75 where we could equate 2+ inches of rainfall. We've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that went all the way to Monday and Tuesday. So it's 7 days, but folks, day by day, picking up rainfall, not allowing a lot of time in between for percolation, could start to build into standing water. That would be Sunday, Monday, and into possibly Tuesday. We'll continue to monitor that. From the double nickel, we got ourselves a climb that'll take us into the 80s, upper 80s here inland. Beachside, not looking too bad. The upper 70s and lower 80s, it will continue. Like I mentioned, though, we could see some of those 90s that will be in our inland areas. If you have to get out and get it done, today's the day, as Thursday may just be a little too wet. And even though we've got the break in between here on Friday, well, number one, it's Friday. And number two, if you pick up some of the locally heavy stuff, then your grass might be a bit too soggy. Our temperatures, and how about that? The update now taking you to 81 degrees. I love it. Florida Joy kicking in some pics here via Snapchat. Gorgeous weather, and wildflowers are continuing to bloom. Great eye there. Some really cool pictures. Must have got down there all the way at flower level for that shot. You can find images like that on Snapchat. 87 degrees here for today. We've got partly cloudy skies this afternoon, the warm up, and then it's the wet weather that makes a return, sits, and continues to drop those showers, even some of the downpours through the weekend and the start of the work week as our temperatures return to the 70s.
Now, here's Keith Pearson Toyota Time Saver Traffic.
Good morning, drivers. Still tracking this incident out there on 95 northbound. This is right after you pass the Atlantic and Beach Boulevard exits around the San Marco area as you're traveling towards the Fuller Warren. It was a crash involving injuries, and that left lane is still blocked, and there are some delays building. If you are traveling on 95 northbound, you're going to start pumping those brakes right around University. Drivers are moving at speeds about 26 miles per hour, and as you get closer to that crash site, you drop down to 5 miles per hour. So would be an ideal time. If you do want to take Phillips, you can always hop on there for an alternate route. Right now, it's taking drivers 35 minutes to travel from the Beltway towards downtown on 95 northbound, and only 5 minutes out there on I-10 eastbound. So would be a good time. Phillips didn't see a lot of congestion building up out there just yet. So if you are about to hit the roads, I would advise to maybe take Phillips if you're traveling in that direction. If not, you're just going to have to pack the patience. Drivers are getting by because there are 2 other lanes. However, like I said, it's just moving very slowly at this time. The fortunate thing is, outside of this one crash, not tracking any other issues ahead of your commute so far. That's your Keith Pearson Toyota Time Saver Traffic.
Thank you, Lena. We are answering your questions about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the government's decision to stop using it right now. Dr. Ricardo Hanel, a neurosurgeon with Baptist Health, joins us this morning. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Jen. Good morning, guys.
So we fielded a number of questions, in fact, from our viewers. So I'd like to start with the first one, and this one comes from Kamessa. She asks, you know, we've actually received several similar to this question. Are there any symptoms I need to keep an eye out for? In fact, she said she received the shot about a month ago, but we've received this same question, as I mentioned, from several others who received it as soon as recently, in fact, as Sunday.
Yeah, Jen, so what we're seeing with J&J vaccine is very similar to what we saw in Europe with AstraZeneca vaccine. Seems like a very similar phenomena where we have blood clots on the vein side of the body and a low platelet count. Looks like a response to the vaccine. Vein clots could be in your legs, so swollen legs all of a sudden, a belly ache that doesn't go away. But the most common complication that I was seeing there, that is still too soon to say for sure is related to the vaccine, is a condition that we call cerebral sinus thrombosis. So those are veins of the head. Females from 18 to 40 years old develop this headache, seizure, and in a couple of cases we had unfortunately fatal hemorrhage on the brain. So those, all the above, including chest pain, those are symptoms that if you had the vaccine, J&J, have to be watching for.
What about shortness of breath, weakness on one side of the body, any sudden changes in vision? Could those also be symptoms?
Absolutely. So this condition that we call dural sinus thrombosis has a variety of symptoms, many different symptoms. So headache, seizure, shortness of breath has to do with clots on the lungs. So if you have clots that develop on your legs, they can do travel to the lungs, and that has been reported with AstraZeneca in Europe. Right now in the US, all the cases reported are related to this sinus thrombosis. There are head clots on the veins of the head. But we do expect that now that there's light on this, we're going to see more coming.
So Mary Kate asks, is there anything that she can do to possibly prevent blood clots? You know, whether it was within 2 weeks or in general, because she received the vaccine on Sunday.
Yeah, so the complications came on the AstraZeneca up to 16 days after the vaccine. The case reported by the FDA and CDC yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, was 13 days or the latest that they have. I think there's no medication here. You just got to be aware of symptoms and stay well hydrated. This dural sinus thrombosis, the clots on the head, have to do with birth control pills. So maybe it's too early to recommend that, but maybe we can counsel females that got the vaccine to hold birth control pills because they have a relationship with this clot specific.
You know, it's funny because I've heard that before, so it'd be interesting to hear if there's any connection based on the FDA meeting later this morning. Lottie asked then, and this kind of follows up, is it safe for her to work out? Meaning, is there anything that we, can do for some reason that would increase our chances of a blood clot forming if we just recently got the J&J vaccine?
I think workout is fine as long as you stay well hydrated. We know blood clots on the veins of the leg have to do with long traveling, staying in the same position. So if you had the J&J vaccine, just play smart, play safe. We don't know for sure where this is going to go, but wear compression stocking if you have to go in a long trip. Stop every 30, 60 minutes to stretch your legs and move around and stay well hydrated.
Excellent advice, Dr. Ricardo Hanel from Baptist Health. Thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen. Have a good day.
He's always got the great answers. Waiting for your tax refund or even your most recent stimulus check? The one thing financial experts say you should not do with that newfound money. In a form of COVID PTSD, some survivors are feeling constant anxiety and depression, the other lasting mental effects and how to handle them. But first, taking advantage of the dead. Scammers are coming after people who recently lost family. The one red flag that should tip you off to a problem.